So YouTube is apparently removing the dislike count from its platform, and it's a very important thing to distinguish that they're removing the dislike count, the dislike counter. They are not removing the dislike button, but as far as you and I are concerned as viewers, that means somebody is not going to be able to see how many people dislike the video. Once they click dislike, they still can't see how many people dislike the video. But they can still see all the likes, all the thumbs up. They can see that counter. And I'm talking about the viewer. The content creator, such as myself and such as any other number of YouTube channels, can still see how many people dislike the video, and that's fine. Even that has some implications itself. But the viewer cannot see how many people disliked the content, although they can still dislike it. With all the backlash that I've seen some huge content creators with tens of millions of subscribers, or at least, 15 million subscribers, 12, 13 million. So like Linus Tech Tips, for instance, has been blasted on Twitter about his disapproval of YouTube removing the dislike button. And he brought up a very critical point in all of this. He basically said that this will allow for scammers to run rampant, that this move by YouTube does nothing but to, among other things, it harms the viewer. So now when the viewer clicks on something, they can't see how many people disliked it. That means they will waste their time, theoretically. Well, not theoretically, they will waste their time with how-to videos or reviews or demonstrations that don't work. So, for instance, let's just say there's a what was it, The Verge? I don't want to get this wrong. Was it The Verge? One of those major publications within the past year and a half, 2 years, came out with a PC build guide, an infamous PC build guide, which was way wrong and just riddled with errors and was basically kind of the laughingstock of the internet. And with this dislike count disabled, that means more people would watch that and theoretically be misled, or at the very minimum waste their time on such content. Now, I will tell you, first of all, it is my opinion that getting rid of the dislike button, getting rid of the dislike counter is a major misstep by YouTube. I would go so far as to say that even by the time this video uploads, YouTube might actually reverse course on this. If they don't reverse course on this by the time I upload this video, and if you're listening to the radio show or the podcast, yes, I'm uploading this, at least this first segment, to YouTube. I'll talk about Alder Lake and M1 Max and its relationship between the two later in the show. I'll talk about drones later in the show. So if you're just listening to this or watching this on YouTube, make sure you grab the Geek Therapy Radio podcast in your favorite podcast player, and you can hear me talk about those items and hundreds of other items. Literally, if I have hundreds of episodes available, so Spotify, Spreaker, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, whatever you listen to your podcast with, just search for Geek Therapy Radio Podcast, look for the red, white, and black color scheme, and there you go. But let me get back at it. So back to what I was saying. I believe that YouTube, and you can kind of mark my words on this, I believe that YouTube will reinstate the dislike counter. After all the backlash, and especially after all the backlash from big-time YouTubers, I think they'll reinstate it. It's possible that by the time I upload this video, it'll be reinstated. But, it's also possible, some might argue likely, that by the time I upload this, you won't be able to see how many dislikes this video has. And there are always dislikes. Let me speak to that for a moment, because that people who've listened to the show, they've heard me mention a time or two that I am all for the dislike button on all social media. I think every social media platform would benefit from a dislike button, especially Facebook. We would watch the world burn if Facebook, or Meta, whatever you want to call it, implemented a dislike button so that you could see that so-and-so disliked it. Yes, they have the angry face, but I don't think that's really the same. We need a big, fat, red thumbs down button on Facebook to keep a lot of people's echo chambers in check. So anyways, the dislike button for YouTube, anybody who creates content for YouTube I think they have a love-hate relationship. Overall, they have a respect for the tool that is the dislike counter. And yes, content creators will still be able to see that people dislike the video. But while getting dislikes kind of stung, it was almost like the more popular the video got. So I have a video about the PSP that I did a couple years ago that's 300,000 views or clicks or views or whatever by now. It's over 250,000, and it has, enough dislikes. And once you have enough dislikes, that means that tons of people are watching your video. Tons of people are engaging their video. They're clicking, they're engaging with your video. Even if it's a dislike, it tells the algorithm that, hey, people are engaging with this content. So while getting dislikes kind of stings sometimes, it is a useful tool for creators to see what works and what doesn't on their platform. So for instance, if I uploaded a video that was kind of, part of my French, half-assed, I could see that, okay, that content doesn't work. Yeah, I kind of dialed that one in. Maybe I need to be more thoughtful of the content I upload to YouTube. So the dislike counter being gone, bad move by YouTube, and it's going to be terrible, especially for the viewers. It's going to be a scammer's paradise now that you can't see the dislike count on videos. More Geek Therapy Radio coming up. If you're just joining me for this segment, you are worthy of love. We'll be back for more Geek Therapy Radio.